它每一年都可以变出新的东西。
Our business model really was driven not from thinking about how do we maximize profits. Its heart beat slows and it purrs, and we've shown through research this helps calm people down.
第三回到10年同名，踏遍全台。那欢迎我们的引言人，非杰文教基金会的董事长伊森们。
嗨，大家午安。那今天很荣幸呢，又在这边来当 Aaron 的一个引言人。那我想要先分享一下我们当初是怎么与 Aaron 相遇的。今天早上带大家回顾了我们10年前的 DFT， 那时候我们就想着说，我们都叫 Design for Taiwan， 我们一定要跟我们的起源 Design for America 有一些连结吧。他的个性很活泼，我相信待会的分享也会很精彩。那我现在接下来就把时间交给 Aaron。
Be able to see Design for Taiwan grow from the very beginning. So excited to be here to celebrate your 10-year anniversary and to be able to be a part of it. I've had kind of this gratitude of being able to come every year and share kind of insights of our design process, with DFT. Starting from this founding insight with Rufus the Bear, where we were able to observe children with type 1 diabetes take care of their own stuffed animals by, pretending to give them insulin injections, by mirroring their medical procedures. This was our company's founding insight. Like, I know so many Design for Taiwan teams presented their founding insight today at Demo Day. And we carried our founding insight through to create a similar tool for children with cancer called My Special Aflac Duck, where they can simulate the same medical procedures that they'll experience as a way of getting comfort, as a way of alleviating anxiety, and doing this as well for children with anxiety. And so today I wanted to share a little bit of something different. I know a lot of folks have heard kind of these stories. Our mission was always to reach every child with an illness. I know this is a really lofty goal, right? If we just do a fraction of it, we'd be happy. But we wanted to kind of grow beyond what we were doing. And so we started with this kind of very, very broad how might we question of how could we scale our impact? Our business model really was driven not from thinking about how do we maximize profits, how do we grow the biggest enterprise, but thinking about how do we design products that work well for users, that solve user needs. And then we kind of layered models in on top of that. And what that meant is all of our products ended up in what we would call a cost plus business model, right? We make a product for X, we sell it for 3 times X. And something really powerful happens when patients emotionally engage in their care, stress in the household about taking care of their illness. And so if this was what we distilled out to be kind of the one nugget that ties all of our products together, then what's the methodology of how we're able to achieve emotional engagements? And for us, that methodology was that they're going through. And this is how we get people to emotionally engage, because as humans, we naturally and innately, we learn by doing. And so what this did for us is it cracked open this whole new beginning of a design process, right? We went through this standard double diamond process to develop our products, to build the business that we had. And if they have a better patient experience, they're going to better fill out and complete that survey with their satisfaction with their hospital. And that's going to lead to that hospital getting a greater amount of reimbursement from the government for their care. That's one hypothesis. Another hypothesis was insurance companies. If we can help patients better engage with their care, maybe we can help them better take their medication on time. And what that results in is lower healthcare costs over that patient's lifetime. So we started the design process all over again, right? We started doing these interviews, really focused on our customers, starting this customer interview process. And we learned a lot. We learned about the complexities for hospitals of what it's like to actually be able to tie your product to the precise impact it has on these scores that dictate reimbursement. It was really hard. We had a really hard time trying to just kind of suss out from hospital leadership their desire to be able to implement a product like ours, because often the patient populations that they're seeing that are pediatric, that are children, is really, really small. And similarly in insurers, we hit a really tough road. It turns out insurance companies, because patients switch insurance companies so frequently, maybe every year, you often don't get to recoup the costs that you would save for better care. So as we're going through and as we're conducting all of these interviews, something really interesting started to happen. We made a sale of our product Purple. This is a product that we had on the market. It's for patients with anxiety. You pet Purple, which has a very rapid heartbeat, and as you pet it, its heartbeat slows and it purrs. And we've shown through research this helps calm people down. And we made a sale of Purple that seemed really benign. We had a customer reach out to us who wanted to buy 50 Purples. We're happy about that. It's not a life-changing sale for us. But something kind of interesting happened when we actually went to go kind of sell the Purples, is that the customer asked us to go through this huge process to become onboarded as a vendor, to negotiate 80-page agreements. We started kind of scratching our heads. At first, this was kind of troublesome, I would say, the least, but it made us ask this question, why? Why is this customer buying these 50 Purples? Why? What's the application? What are they using them for? And it turned out this customer was buying these Purples to put them into a clinical trial. And it wasn't a clinical trial to assess whether our product was doing what we say it does. This was actually a trial for a new type of therapy, a new drug for patients with epilepsy. So we're like, wow, that's like really interesting. Why are you buying these products to give to patients in this trial? So we kind of started asking this question, well, what value do we bring to pediatric clinical research? It's a field we knew nothing about. We've never dealt with the drug development process with pharmaceutical companies. And this company who was buying the products wasn't actually even a pharmaceutical company. It was the company that runs these clinical trials at arm's length. When a drug company runs a clinical trial, I learned they don't run it themselves often. They use a third party to make sure, things are unbiased. So we started interviewing this customer. It was a tiny customer, but there was so much that we could learn. We learned, just to start off with, something that we had no idea, is just the immense amount of costs that go into developing a drug. It's about $1.3 billion to develop a new drug for a pediatric disease. And that drug needs to pass through 3 phases of trials: a phase 1 trial, which often determines whether it's safe, a phase 2 trial, which determines what dose is appropriate, and then a phase 3 trial, which determines efficacy over a larger patient population. And for many diseases in the pediatric realm, these are really rare diseases. Like I mentioned before, a lot of drug development right now is focused on diseases that are under 10,000 patients, so really, really small patient populations that we would never be able to reach otherwise. So then we started interviewing families. We want to understand the patient perspective. I'll never forget, I interviewed a mother of a child with a disease called Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. It's a disease where you slowly lose your ability to move as a child. And her son had participated in 2 clinical trials. In this disease, there is no treatment. There is no cure. So clinical trials are actually the first line of treatment for these families. And we talked about just the immense amount of stress it is as a caregiver. You enroll your child in this clinical trial. You don't know whether the drug is going to work. Is it worth the risk? Is it worth the potential side effects that we don't know what those side effects might be? And it's very, very taxing for patients. Often a very common pediatric study structure is a structure called a PK trial, a pharmacokinetics trial, which means that they will administer drugs. So maybe you get an injection, you go to the hospital, you get an injection, or you take a pill, and then you stay for about 8 hours. And they draw your blood every hour, so about 7 blood draws, to measure how that drug interacts in your body. Ultimately, participation in drug trials is an incredibly altruistic act for the patients. Some of these studies last for 1 year to 2 years, so what's the cost of the 1 month delay? 1 month of delay costs $840,000. Oh my gosh. Wow, there's a really, really big problem here. So, and what does this all lead to? It leads to the fact that I have to take hours out of my day, take a day off of work when my child is upset. And so we started thinking about how our products could play a role. And we started thinking about this concept of emotional readiness. So what does that mean, of being emotionally ready for a clinical trial? It means knowing what to expect, feeling in control, and supporting the emotional journey. So this hypothesis that if we could use our products, so this is the product we created, but when we sold Clinical Companions to our first customer, it was a sketch on a PowerPoint slide. And we showed it to this customer, a pharmaceutical company, and they were conducting a rare disease trial for a drug for patients with something called hereditary angioedema. And this is a disease where, out of the blue, a different part of your body will swell up. And then the hospitals have staff that actually interact with patients. So we're so many layers removed, right, from our actual end user. And so we needed to create this system. And most importantly, right, we have the families who are participating in this study we want to get the product to. It's just a super emotional moment for us to kind of get this into the hands of patients. And we learned so much in this first clinical trial. The first thing we learned, and maybe it's not surprising to you, is that whole system that we designed was way too complex. It was way too many pieces to be able to train people how to use. So we went back kind of almost to the drawing board, and we had these sort of 3 questions. The first question was, this is actually the last question listed here, but how do we simplify things? We're dealing with a product that's deployed in a situation where we actually don't even get to train the people that use it. And we don't get to talk to the end families who might have questions about the product. So how do we make it as simple as possible? The next question was, how do we remove the friction to working in many, many countries? We had that passport I showed you. What I didn't show you was that it had 25 pages of text. And we deployed in 22 countries, and countries speak multiple languages. So we needed to translate that little passport and print it in over 22 different languages, and then supply all of those hospitals with the appropriate passports in the appropriate languages, the appropriate sticker sheets in the appropriate languages. So how do we remove the friction in operating in this global environment? Clinical trials in pediatrics encompass the ages of 2 to 18. Because again, it's so hard to find patients. You want to kind of be able to have the broadest age group. And so this was something we never did. We never designed a product. Build the evidence base to communicate what we do in their language. Because right now, we don't have the tools to be able to communicate perfectly in their language and say, when you put this product into a study, it saves X amount of money, it saves X amount of time, and it gets your drug to market, 3 months faster, right? We don't have the data to be able to make those claims. So it's kind of trying to build the strongest logic model, almost impact model, that almost seems obvious.
他讲的是让糖尿病童的小朋友透过照顾这个泰迪熊，学会照顾自己。从那个时候开始，我们每隔几年，或者甚至是每一年，都会邀请 Aaron 来，他每一年都可以变出新的东西。所以我觉得今天很开心，可以再次请到 Aaron 来跟我们做这样的一个分享。